All right, welcome back to the dystopia. Today I would like to talk about why I am against all psychology. Now let me clarify this. Let's talk about this because of course there's nothing wrong with understanding systems of human thought. There's nothing wrong with understanding models of psychology in terms of understanding yourself and looking at systems of thought, looking at cognitive behavioral therapy, developmental psychology, the various forms of how we look at what the mind is and what life is and how it is to be a functioning, living, breathing human being. Nothing wrong with that. But I am against all psychology in that psychology, for it to be qualified as psychology, has to make some sort of jump from the insight, from the flowing, from the creative, from the new and alive, into something that is dead, something that is solidified, something that is categorized and put into a system and made solid. And what we are as people is something that is flowing, something that is fresh, something that is new, something that is ever creating a newness or aliveness, or it's like forever new. Like I can't think of another phrase to say it, that we are forever being born again. Now there's another thing to look at with this, which is that Osho has his book called Beyond Psychology. And this is an amazing book, an amazing series of talks where he discusses many questions of psychology and what it means to have a mind and live in the world and face the daily activities that we do about money, relationships, understanding yourself, coming into emotional awareness, coming into meditation, and all the rest of it. And the title of the book really says enough of it, right? Beyond psychology. Beyond, which essentially means beyond these systems that we have created for ourselves. Now, a psychologist, as such, can be someone who is alive, someone who is thriving, who is living. Although, a lot of the time, the psychologists that we encounter and that we see and that we come across might not be like that, because a psychologist who is stuck in a system of thought, who is stuck with their favourite model or their favourite idea or their favourite sort of way of analysing a person, is someone who is not alive. It's someone who, they are someone who is relying on a way of looking at people that is rigid. It's not adapting to the individual. Now, of course, it can go two ways, really. To put this most crudely, there are psychologists that are alive and insightful and adapting to an individual, and those that are not, those that are set in their ways, those that are relying on their systems of thought. So we really want to understand this difference. We really want to look at these two different ways of approaching insight towards a person. The one is analysing a person. The one is squaring a system of analysis or an explanation as to how someone is the way they are and putting that as a sort of web onto you. So what that looks like is you turn up at the psychologist's session or wherever, you turn up to them and you sit down and you talk and you say, well, this is what's going on for me and this is what's happening and all the rest of it. You share a little bit about your story and your situation and your problems and you're sort of trying to work with it, yes? Then the psychologist is going to draw upon their systems of thought and their structures of analysis and say, well, that means this. That means this. That could be this. This is your diagnosis. This is what that means. This is what the science says about that, or the history, or the whatever, or the model, whatever. Now, that is very different. That is very, very different to the other side, which is when you have someone who is alive, someone who is adapting, someone who is providing real-time insight. This looks more like this. You turn up with the session, you turn up to your psychology session, you sit down and you're talking, and there's something that unfolds that's far more intimate, far more real, far more alive. It's more, there's an energy to it. There's a vibrancy to it. It's like you can taste that they understand you. You can taste this connection between you and the person giving the session. And that person giving the session doesn't rely on a system of thought. They actually guide you and facilitate you into finding your own insight, into saying, what does it mean for you to discover a solution or a framing or an insight? And that's the difference between analyzing someone and facilitating someone. To facilitate means to actually let someone come up with their own realizations. And this is a world apart, right? This is a totally different way of approaching psychology. It's a totally different way of understanding another human being. Really, it's not about understanding. It's not about having a collection of words or sounds from the mouth that respond to someone. It's about co-creation. Now, there are systems of therapy or session giving or facilitating that have this understanding. They are beyond psychology. There are systems like the focalizing method, and what else would be another example, like the somatic experiencing process, which works less with the mind. Yeah, they have this understanding that it's not about analysis. And the world of difference is in how you create that moment. The experience that you have of sitting down with someone and talking to them and relating on a deeper level is really what the value is in going beyond psychology. You're going beyond the thought. A lot of psychologists and counselors will sit down and stay in the level of the mind. They'll say things like, it takes years to really understand yourself. It takes years to get into all of the issues. Now, the great thing about going beyond psychology is that you don't always need the story. Yes, when you go to a psychologist and you say, this is my story, this is my back history, this is a baggage. This is a kind of, I need to catch you up on everything that's happened. When you're going beyond psychology, the story is secondary. You don't really need to catch up. It's really more about the session. It's really more about the experience. And when you're looking at, what would you call it? It's like when you're looking at somatic experiencing, you're very much going beyond the mind. You're very much not talking about yourself as much as you are saying what needs to be said to get past the level of the mind and into the feeling of the body, into the heart center, into the emotional feeling center. So this is why I'm against psychology. This is why I'm against psychological analysis, counseling, and a lot of those things. Now, you can find that it's useful for you. You can find that, if there's something that's working for you, then that's fine for you. You need to know what's right for you. But really, when we're talking about personal transformation and getting over the problems, you need to find the fire, right? You need to get to the point. You need to break through. And you don't have time to come back for session after session after session. Yeah, this whole thing of get 10 sessions for the price of 9 or get your 10th session free. You really can't do that. You need to get into it on the first session. You need to get into it straight away. You need to have a peak experience right from the get-go. And you need to learn to have these experiences for yourself. You need to be up and running. You need to find your independence. So many people become dependent upon psychology, dependent upon their counselor, their psychologist, their person giving the session, yeah? Really, if it's working, you're learning to have these states for yourself. You're learning how these stories about your childhood trauma or your family trauma or relationship trauma, they're really just a window into your experience. They're a footstep. It doesn't really matter what the story is at the end of the day. You just pick something from your life as a starting point, and then you can very quickly go into your experience. You can go into your state. Once you learn that for yourself, The mind becomes secondary. Your thought patterns, the words that you use, that's always secondary. When you transform into your state, you transform into your emotional being, when you're living from your heart, this thought pattern, this flow of thinking becomes very small in your experience. And it even at times, many times, becomes silent. It becomes non-existent. You have experiences of no mind. And that's what you need to be getting towards. The psychologists, the analyzers, stay in the mind and you're just getting more and more words. You don't need more words in your mind. You don't need more explanations. You don't need another way of describing things or analyzing things. You don't need new ways of thinking about yourself. You need to feel yourself. You need to get into your body. You need to get into your heart. And that's the difference between psychology and going beyond psychology. So this is a central understanding. You need this as a foundational understanding, this difference between mind and beyond psychology and everything else, which we would call heart-centered living, understanding intuition, going beyond the mind, living with soul, living with your embodiment, living with a multidimensional experience, living in the nebula, living in the burn meditation, which is something I talk about every day as well. So this difference, you really need to get into this. You really need to have this difference. And you really need to know that psychology, as we have it in the popular sphere, 99% of it is useless. Most of it is useless. Most of it is just your mind going around and around and around. So, I am a qualified focalizing method facilitator. I work with embodying practice. I do online teaching. I have online courses. And I am looking to expand my channel. I'm looking to expand these talks. So if you're on board with going beyond psychology, please tell me, what is your experience? Please subscribe to my channel. Please reach out to me. I'm trying to find human beings, not robots. I'm not interested in robots. I'm trying to find human beings that understand this difference. If you understand this difference between psychology and going beyond psychology, I want to hear from you. So let's continue the conversation. Join the Lifetime Meditation Burn, and I'll talk to you very soon.